Hello guys, in this video we're going to be doing the 2024 House election map. So we're immediately going to start off with the two states that are going to get redistricted, Ohio and North Carolina. We'll start off with North Carolina because that's going to be gerrymandered for Republicans like crazy. So we're going to start off with one of the maps I saw in 538, which I think it's going to be a 10-4 map, 10 Republicans, 4 Democrats. That's the most likely one. This will create the 14th district to solid Republican by packing in most of the voters into the 12th district. The 6th district, they're going to pack more voters into the 4th. So this is going to be probably solid Republican. 13th, it's going to be a likely Republican district from one of the maps I saw on the redistricting tool in 538. And District 1, I could see it being only tilts Democratic because I think they'll create one swing district here just because it's super hard to pack Democrats into just 3 districts. This is going to be the only competitive one. So, yeah, they're going to get rid of about 3 solidly or likely Democratic seats in the 14th, 6th, and 13th and make one a lot more competitive. All right, let's head to Ohio. So in redistricting, I saw they're going to make the 13th very, very more Republican. So Sykes is probably going to lose re-election here in this district. In the 1st district, either pack the Democrats into here and make it a likely Democratic district, or just make it lean Democratic. I think they're going to be bloodthirsty and make it only lean, but that might jeopardize the 10th district. But he is a very long-serving incumbent, so I think they're just going to go with a riskier play and make this more competitive. But I still think even if Steve Chabot runs here again, he's probably going to lose here again in the more favorable district towards him. In the 9th, Marcy Kaptur, they could try to make this like R plus 10. Honestly, I think Kaptur still might have a possible way of surviving here. So I'm still going to make it tilt Democratic, but this could easily change once Ohio gets redistricted. But for now, she has a slight chance, but it's only slight. Okay. Let's start off with Iowa. Let's take a zoom in on there. All right. So, the 2nd district, it's going to be a likely Republican. She easily won re-election here by like 7 or 8 points. Axne's district, very competitive. Well, now it's Zach Nuns. He's the incumbent here. I could see Sydney Axne running again because she only lost by 2,000 votes. I really think she probably should run again, honestly. But Mariette Miller Meeks, she's only going to win by a lean margin. She got lucky. It was very Republican last time, but now it's going to be a lot more Democrats turning out in Iowa. So she's only going to win by a lean margin. In Missouri's 2nd. Let's get a zoom in on that. This district is only 7.8% Republican, so I think she only wins here by about 9.5%. It could easily go to solid. But just with the trends with suburbs getting more bluer over time and rural areas getting more Republican, there's a decent amount of suburbs in Missouri 2nd, so it's going to get a little bit more Democratic. Kansas is 3rd. Honestly, has the potential of going solid Democratic, but I'm going to be safe and put it as likely. We could start off with Indiana's 1st district. That's also going to be a likely district because there'll be a lot of Democratic turnout. Start off with Illinois as well. All these districts remain solid. They're really not going to be that competitive. They're very much Biden-won districts. Lauren Underwood, again, she only wins by a likely margin. And Eric Sorensen, I think he wins re-election by a likely margin just because a lot more higher Democratic turnout in the state of Illinois in a presidential year. In Minnesota 2nd, Angie Craig has become more and more entrenched as an incumbent. I think she wins by a likely margin here, just like she did in the 2022 House elections in that state. In the state of Wisconsin, there's a potential that the Democrats could flip the Supreme Court here and stop the gerrymandering of Wisconsin. But so far, I'm going to assume the Republicans hold the Supreme Court. And let's start with Wisconsin first. And I think it's only going to be likely Republican so far because it is an incumbent in this state. But again, it was a likely margin in the 2022 House elections. Wisconsin's 3rd. It's going to be also lean Republican if the map stays the same. This state, honestly, if Ron Kind run for re-election here in this House district, he probably could have won with how close it was in the House elections. Okay, let's finish off the Rust Belt. So we'll go into Michigan really quick. John James barely won the election here in Michigan's 10th, but I think he's barely going to be favored here again by a tilt Republican margin. But I think Democrats should put a lot of resources into defeating him. It's not that Republican of a district, and especially if Biden wins here by a likely margin, I could see this district flipping, honestly, because Democrats are going to put funds into it. Michigan's third, Hillary Sloan's going to easily win by a likely margin, potential of even over 10%. Dan Kilde's easily going to win, potential by over 10%, but then I'm being generous to the Republicans here, as making them likely. Alyssa Slotkin, she's become very entrenched as a moderate in the House. I don't think she's going to lose to any Republican at this point, so putting as lean Democratic. She even won by a likely margin in the 2022 elections. Let's head to Florida. So, Florida's 13th will probably go to a likely margin. Florida's 9th, I think it'll go more sadly Democratic. However, in the Miami-Dade area, Republicans have made a lot of improvements here, and these districts can get a lot more competitive just because Biden's going to lose the state by 7 to 12 points, either if it's Trump or DeSantis. So, I think those districts can get more competitive. For Virginia, I think Virginia 10th is going to go easily over 10%. Spanberger's easily going to win here by a likely margin. Honestly, I think Gloria runs again after losing her seat here, and she narrowly flips it. With presidential year turnout, Virginia will probably be won by Biden by over 10% if it's Trump and 9% if it's DeSantis, thus resulting in Democrats getting a lot more gains back. And I could even see Virginia's first getting into the likely column here, getting a lot more closer. Let's head to PA. So we'll start with the 17th, and honestly, Chris D'Eluza will easily win here. Now that he's an incumbent, he'll get more incumbency advantage and win here by a likely margin. And then 10th district here with Scott Perry. Let's take a look how Republican it is. Only 4.2%. It's getting more and more Democratic leaning, and he only won by a likely margin last time. So keep an eye on this district. Maybe Democrats make some funds here. Fitzpatrick, he also wins by a likely margin. He's very moderate House representative in the House, so it's going to be tough to beat him. I don't think Democrats are really going to invest here. He's just easily going to win by a likely margin, probably like 9 points or something. Susan Wild, honestly, I see her area of Pennsylvania getting slightly more Democratic trend-wise, while I see Cartwright's getting more Republican trend-wise, so I think he only wins by a tilt margin, while Susan Wild wins by a bigger margin than he does, just because of how Republican Cartwright's district is compared to Wild's. But again, Matt Cartwright's an electoral juggernaut, so I see him winning re-election here in the Pennsylvania 8th District. Let's head to New Jersey. All right, New Jersey, Jeff Van Drew, easily win by over 10%. Josh Gottheimer, let's see. No, he'll win by over 10%. 12.5, I think he'll get it. Tom Malinowski, he only narrowly wins here just because... Wait, no. Tom Malinowski lost. Tom Keene Jr., the incumbent here. I think he narrowly pulls off a win here. But if Democrats run a different candidate than Malinowski, someone who's less scandal-ridden, they could easily flip back this district because of how much Biden won it by. All right, New England, Johanna Hayes, I think she wins this district by a likely margin. Big improvement over a very small victory last November. And pretty much in Rhode Island, second. Let's see. I want to zoom in here just to get his name right. Magaziner. Magaziner will probably beat any Republican here by a likely margin. If it's Fung again, likely margin, but it could go to solid even if it's not Fung. But I think maybe Fung tries an attempt here, but it won't work. In New Hampshire's first, I see this as a likely margin just because Chris Papias was able to easily beat his Republican opponent back last November in a much more Republican-leaning environment. Jared Golden, he's becoming more of an electoral juggernaut each and every year, and at this point, it's going to be impossible to unseat him. I think he has this seat locked on for life until he runs for the main Senate seat here, occupied by Susan Collins. So let's take a look at my home state of New York. I think there'll be a decent amount of flips here. We'll start off with New York's first district. I think it's just trending Republican, and honestly, I think Trump or DeSantis will easily win Suffolk County by enough of a margin where it's not even competitive in the House races. In New York's fourth, Honestly, D'Esposito is pretty much dead on arrival. I just don't see how he doesn't lose by a likely margin. Even in the best case scenario, he only loses like he gets 7% crossover support and Biden wins his district by 14. He still loses by a likely margin. So even if Biden supports cuts in half, he still wins by a lean margin, even if there's crossover support. So there's no way he's winning, and the Republicans kind of know that at this point. They got lucky in flipping the seat just because Zeldin did well in the governor's race and Democrats didn't turn out. New York's 3rd district with Santos. He's an extremely extremist Republican. I just don't see how he survives here. They're going to easily wipe him out in November in 2024, so I think he's screwed. Pat Ryan, I think he wins this district by a likely Democratic margin. I think they're going to start to like him as an incumbent here, and he'll have a bit of an incumbency advantage. And plus, now that it's a presidential year, higher Democratic turnout will happen. New York 17th, I kind of have a bit of skepticism of if Democrats could win back this district. It could be possible that Lawler pulls through a win here, especially if he acts very moderate in Congress. But I could see Sean Patrick Maloney running again here and probably narrowly unseating Lawler for this district. New York's 19th, Molinaro. I think he's the one House Republican that is probably going to survive here. I think he's moderate enough as a candidate to win this district. New York's 22, I think it narrowly flips in favor of the Democrats, mainly because Brandon Williams barely won last time, and it's a more Democratic district than the New York 19th. Okay, let's go to the wide view. So in Texas, I think Vincent Gonzalez wins here by a solid Democratic margin because he's an incumbent. Henry Keeler wins here by a likely Democratic margin, possibly over 10, but I think it will be likely because his district's fairly Republican. Texas 15th, it was likely last time in 2022, but I think this time we'll get lean Republican just because Trump, or I think it'll be Trump, will underperform here by a decent amount. And with DeSantis, he'll do better in Texas than Trump, but still there's a lot of Democratic trends in Texas in presidential years we have to keep an eye on. So I think it'll narrowly be won by the Republicans. All right. In Montana's first, I think Republicans are narrowly favored to win this district. They'll have someone else running for this House seat because the person who won this House seat is running for Senate for Montana. But this is a fairly competitive district, and Democrats will definitely try to win it. Colorado 8th, I think the new Democrat elected here will win here by a lean margin because Colorado keeps getting bluer and bluer. It's becoming a safe blue state, basically. Colorado 3rd, I honestly think Boebert's going to get wiped out here. She barely won last time with limited funding for the Democrat here, and he's running against her again, so it's going to be tough for her to win, honestly. New Mexico 2nd, I honestly think it's lean Democratic. Yvette Harrell is beaten here by about 1,000 votes, and it's only going to get a more Democratic environment in New Mexico in a presidential year. Arizona, consider this district pretty much likely Republican. Let's take a look at it. Yeah, it's 8.4% Republican, but the good news for Democrats is I really think they're going to unseat Swihart this time, just because I think Democrats have a lot of trends going for them in Arizona, especially in the suburbs. Swihart barely won last time when Democrats kind of gave up in this district. I think Democrats are not going to give up this time. In Arizona 6, I think it's narrowly going to flip towards the Dems with unseating Juan Ciscomani. He barely won last time, and with Democratic trends here, I think he's going to get narrowly unseated. Let's start off with Washington State. Honestly, Washington 8th, Schreier's going to win here re-election by like 7 points because it's presidential year turnout. And I really think the Democrat here unseated Joe Kent. Let's take a look at her name so we remember. Mary Perez. She's a very moderate Democrat. I've seen some of her ads, and she kind of reminds me of Jared Golden, so I think she could pull off winning in a narrow Trump district like Maine 2nd. In Nevada, I think all these districts is go likely Democratic. Democrats have won all these districts, especially in 2020 with Biden. He won them all by likely margins. Democrats did a very good job gerrymandering here, so all these incumbents are easily going to win by likely margins in the state of Nevada. And Nebraska's second will be one of the most competitive districts. Bacon barely won in 2022, which is very strange. Honestly, I could see Tony Vargas running again against him and maybe narrowly unseating him, but I still think Bacon's favored to win re-election here. In Alaska, I think Mary Petola wins here by a lean margin. I think the Republicans are trying to try to get their act together, but I could see Palin and the other Republican running here again. So, what was his name? Nick Begich. I could see him running again just out of spite against Palin, and Mary Petola wins by a lean margin instead of a likely one. In Oregon's 4th district is a fairly Democratic district. I think the incumbent Democrat here is going to win by an over 10% margin with presidential turnout. Oregon 6, it's going to turn from a tilt district to likely, just with presidential year turnout. Oregon's 5th will narrowly flip in favor of the Dems, just considering that Lori Chavez Romer, I'm getting her name right, Lori Chavez de Rimmer only barely won this district last time, so I really think she might be one of the top targets for the Democrats here. Now you can focus on the state of California to end this long video. So, in California's 3rd, let's take a look at, I think it's going to be a lean Republican margin. In a lot of rural areas here in California, it's really not going to be that competitive for the Democrats, but I could see them targeting it, and I think they should, because if they get a lot of Democratic trends to go their way in California, and it really helps the Democrats here, especially if Biden wins the state by even more than they did last time, they could flip this district. California 21, it was strangely a likely district this election, which was weird because considering it was a 21% Biden district, but I think he'll win here instead by a over 10% margin. It was just a lack of Democratic turnout in California. Gavin Newsom really didn't campaign that well, and he hurt a lot of House Democrats and maybe even cost the Democrats the House, honestly. California 49th, Mac Levin. He's going to win by here by a likely margin like he did in 2022. Katie Porter is also going to win by a likely margin, improving her lean margin from last time. Mainly because we could take a look at her districts. Excuse me, that was just a sneeze. But Katie Porter, again, it's a very much a Biden one district, and honestly could win by over 10%. But I'm assuming that maybe the Republicans put forward their good candidates again like last time. California 27th. Mike Garcia is just impossible to beat. I don't know why. He's just an electoral juggernaut. He's not even that moderate, and Democrats always mess up and nominate someone really weak like Kirsty Smith. Garcia won here by a likely margin last time, but it's going to be tilt Republican this time. It's going to be a better opponent, but he has a lot of incumbency advantage, and I don't know why. He just acts like a very right-wing Republican and wins in a Biden-won district anyway. It's just very Republican down ballot in California 27th. That must be the reason. California 13th, I really think that John Duterte, he's going to uphill battle here. And plus, Democrats are really going to be targeting this district heavily. And I really think they're probably going to flip it in the 2022 election or 2024 elections. California 22nd. I think David Valadao is not really that favored here, especially because of how much more Democratic it is than all the other districts here. He's going to be in trouble. Plus, he voted to impeach Trump last time, and he got super lucky that Gavin Newsom just sucked at campaigning in the state that he got lucky and won this district. Let's get a zoom in on San Diego. All right. Can I pull away? No. Get me to LA. There we go. So, Michelle Steele, look how Democratic her district is. And she only won by 4% last time in a very low Democratic turnout area in California. So I think Democrats are going to narrowly unseat her here. And honestly, I could see Will Rowlands also being Ken Calvert. He runs against him again. I could see him narrowly flipping this district just with Democratic trends and with Biden maybe even winning California by an even bigger margin. So let's get to the total House map. Man, why is it always 222 to 213? So we went from 2020, which was 222 Democrats to 213 Republicans, 2022, which was 222 Republicans to 213 Democrats, to now the same margin again. I guess patterns happen in politics. So that's my 2024 House prediction. Let me know what you think of this video in the comments below. Like, comment, and subscribe.